Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to episode number 70 of FinalBossTV, your WoW and Game rating show. My name is Adam K, aka Bay, and I will be your host this evening. No guest co-host shenanigans. We have plenty to talk about Protection Paladins today. And I don't want to muddy up the waters with anything else. We'll get through this all. Theck, if you might know that name in the Protection Paladin community, helped put some show notes together and threw some ideas at me on what to talk about with our two guests today. So he is here in spirit. But everyone wants him on the show. Maybe sometime in the future. Maybe next expansion? I don't know. Bug him enough on Twitter. We'll see. And so who are my guests today, you ask? You may know of these two. I have no beard competition on the show today. I'm actually really excited about that. That's fine. Yeah. But we have returning in a year-plus vacation from the show. There's Mr. Slootbag. How you doing, Ted?
Hello. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Good to be back.
Yeah?
So cozy.
Do you want to introduce your little co-host there to your left to the stream?
Yes. This is Feifei the Jerk. We met online.
Oh, God!
Things have been going well ever since.
Did you meet on WoW Tinder or something?
Yeah, sure. Let's leave it at that. Maybe a more our version of that.
Right. Oh. Terrible. And then, of course, we have Trekkie as well. Hello, sir. Hi, Martin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I left my fridge at home, so...
I know. It looks so weird it has a cat stand behind you, not a fridge.
Yeah, I'm not playing with it either, so it's boring.
Have you actually, like, wheeled around to your left and, like, patted and grabbed at nothing out of muscle memory yet?
Yes. I've tried out the cat.
You grabbed the cat instead?
The lake all over the place.
Oh my god. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Alright, gentlemen, well, we have a bunch of Protection Paladin mumbo-jumbo to get into here today. I guess the first little thing about it is, I wanted to know what you guys think about Warlords of Draenor so far. I mean, what are your opening thoughts? Right now, we just got a little taste of Blackrock Foundry. We get Mythic on Tuesday. Rip your sleep schedule, Ted. I'm sorry. Not sorry.
Look at this shit.
You got the bags in your eyes already?
Sloot bags.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, what do you think, Sloot? What do you think of expansion so far?
I'm having a blast. People always ask, like, oh, is this the best expansion, blah, blah, blah. You won't really know until it's done, but so far, the way it's starting out, I honestly think it's probably one of the best. It's in a solid place. It's got its hiccups. It's got, people are complaining about some pruning, maybe whatever it may be, but overall, I think it's really solid at the moment. Okay, fair enough. The holidays didn't rattle you guys too much? Kind of raided around them, during them?
Yeah. Before
them? Yeah. So how was that all? I mean, I'm sure Trekkie might have a different opinion on the initial launch of Warlords of Draenor from the EU side of things, but how's the Warlords going so far for you? Trekkie, what do you think?
I love Wall of Garrisons, so it's fun.
You're an ass.
I don't know. I'm kind of addicted to the missions or whatever, but I do them wrong. But it's like,
how do you
always
do them wrong?
make sure that I
do them wrong.
Them. I don't know. Like I don't put enough interest in them. But then it's like, oh, I'm gonna if a mission finished in 5, I can wait to go to bed for another 5 minutes. So it's like,
oh well, don't say that
all
because
the time.
I'm sure we all felt that initially when you had to go to work after the launch and you were like. Did you use log me ins to like log into your computer from work or using your phone or?
I actually, I'm not kidding. I actually had like cold sweats in my sleep. I'd be like, oh my god, my followers, and I thought I would have dreams that my followers were done and I needed to go like update the new mission. It was horrible.
No.
It's like setting the alarm for the middle of the night just to send them
I know
away.
I know I saw a tweet from Drevka in particular that he had a screenshot of his phone, like a picture from someone else's phone on his phone, like going in to log himself in during the day. It was. Now I'm just like, damn it! So much. It's just World of Chorecraft. It feels a little bit chorey.
And then on like 7 characters, like log in, log out, log in, log out, log in, log out.
Yeah. I only have 3. You have 7? Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
No. Pass.
They need to make it a bit more alt-friendly, in my opinion. have you, I don't know, like let's say accumulate the mine resources or herb garden resources up to like 5 days or whatever, you know, so you don't have to be forced or feel forced for OCDP. Like you need to log in every day and farm them out.
Yeah.
I stopped doing that. I just stopped. It's like go do the ores. Nah, I'll jump to the auction house and buy whatever I need instead. Cause it's like so dirt cheap because everyone can do it.
I think the only thing I really care to keep up with anymore right now is like the barn, which whenever the barn is like one work order away from completion, you're like, oh god, there's the next hour of my life. Oh, it's terrible.
I'm in that boat today actually.
You gotta go to the barn. You gotta do like.
I gotta go farm Clev Tooth today.
Yes. So I guess pretty good. No big hiccups or anything like that. No big negatives.
Except for launch. Well, yeah.
Yeah, server stability, but I think it's all right otherwise.
That's sort of to be sort of expected, I guess. Yeah. So how about the transition from Mists to Warlords for Protection Paladins? This is a whole ability prune dealio. I guess the biggest things that happened to Prot though is like you lost DPS cooldowns. It's gone. And then
I was about to say what pruning because we lost like
you lost Devo.
You lost two things.
Yeah, you lost Devo and Avenging Wrath.
Yeah.
Is that it? Really? So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basically. We like the pruning didn't really hit tanks very hard, but the rare things that it hit for some tanks were like very flavorful. Well, to a certain extent flavorful, and in my opinion, unique, cool abilities like Clash for Brewmasters. I don't think should have gone anywhere.
Oh yeah, I've heard you say that before.
Wings for Paladins shouldn't have gone anywhere, but whatever. What you gonna do at this point? Maybe they'll bring it back.
Well, you still have Prot still has wings on Guardian, right? When you pop Guardian, you get wings.
But that's such a visually heavy spell already that you don't really notice.
Yeah, they almost like had to give it to you somewhere because you didn't want to take it away. Yeah, I get you on that one. That's really all you lost. Whereas it feels the same thing for me. Like for Enhancement Shaman, I lost 2 buttons and gained 2 buttons. Yes. Nothing changed. Literally nothing changed for me. And then I gained Sanctity of Battle, so that as I gain gear, the rotation gets even faster. Perfect.
I think like it's the Sanctity of Battle thing. They just like gave it to every class now.
Yeah, a bunch of classes.
Like
have
everyone just has it.
They wanted to make haste worthwhile, so like everyone gets faster GCDs. Yeah.
And then they didn't, so they had to buff it again like a week ago.
Well, we'll get into for you guys. So the big thing that left in Mists, however, was a moment of silence, real quick, gentlemen. Moment of silence for vengeance. That's enough. So Resolve placed it. What do you guys think of Resolve now, though? There's no more DPS whoring. No more sitting around getting crit. So Trekkie, like, what's the direct impact on Protection Paladins for Resolve?
I mean, Resolve is kind of weird, but it's a big improvement from Vengeance, because like the way like your damage all is scaling to wanting to take more damage, that like whole philosophy of how you increase your damage and stuff just didn't work out the way they intended. The intended way was basically like if you manage to survive this, you're rewarded by more DPS, but that just didn't work out that way. So Resolve is just basically like if you're effectively tanking a boss, it's like almost maxed out at all times. So yeah, and then goes down really quickly when you're not tanking. So
yeah,
it works out pretty well.
Yeah. So what I guess in that regard, so like Word of Glory and Total Flame benefit from Resolve. Sacred Shield benefits from Resolve.
SOI.
Okay.
Any self-healing, right? Any self-healing.
Right.
Except for Leon Hands.
Except for Leon Hands, that's based on your HP.
3 million Leon Hands. Not that there
You don't have enough HP for that. Yeah.
True.
So is that... Do you think that's enough, though? I mean, every tank class sort of has a different way about going about this. I mean, for like, when we did Blood Death Knights already, all they really gain from Resolve is just their, like, 1 heal and their shield. And that's it. And it doesn't double dip, though, like with their master and also their craziness. So it's just kind of... It feels like it's just there. Is it... Yeah, go ahead, Sleep. What do you think?
I know what you're saying. It affects different classes, I don't know, a bit more or less, right? It just depends how much self-healing you have. So like things like Guardians and Paladins and will benefit a lot more from it because they have so much more sources of self-healing and stuff. Whereas, every class has some sort of self-healing or absorb. It's just how frequently it applies. But then you have something like Monk that doesn't really have that much self-healing technically, right? They have like Expel Harm, and it's not really spammable. But then all of a sudden, You know, it's just like, oh no, I'm at 5%. Oh, JK, man, here's a million guard. Like, I'll be safe for the next 10 minutes. It scales out of control. So really, they only have like one big bomb emergency heal, let's say. Although Expel Harm can like heal you for quite a bit. But when you pop it, it's just like it's basically a super duper absorbed version of Lay on Hands on a 30-second cooldown.
Well, that's it's funny you bring that in with with Expel, because I put in here like it kind of feels like outside of it's like a mini game. We talk a lot about like how the game feels now because after the ability pruning, a lot of classes have these little mini games they play, and for tanking now you have resolve. So to me, like if you take a big hit, you'll gain a lot of resolve. So then you can do something to counteract what you just did, right? You never really have the resolve going into things unless you're like constantly tanking, like Trekkie said.
You can't game resolve like you did with Vengeance.
Right.
Before people would like rotate Vengeance, 20-second buffs. Now it's
exactly.
like they did a good job with it this time. You can't do that. If you're not taking damage, you're not going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, like, if you're taking a big hit, you're gonna have a lot of results. So you can use that one heal on you. But it's not like I'm gonna wait till the next next hit, because then I'm gonna have a little bit more resolve. Because then, like, the second hit is gonna either kill you or the heal is gonna be like 2% stronger because it doesn't scale. Like, you don't get 100% resolve from one hit and then 250% after the second hit. So
Trekkie, put your cameras.
Oh, he's good. It just autofocused.
Sorry. Oh.
Yeah, you're
no,
good.
It's good. It's good now. It's good now.
So then I guess
your co-host fell down.
What I wonder then about that is that if you run Sacred Shield, I guess on certain encounters, if is there anything you use to like track your resolve, and then like do you time like a Word of Glory or Eternal Flame into yourself based off of that, or you just kind of like just do it whenever you need it? Do you ever like imagine or play around higher or lower?
Anybody? Okay, I'll take this.
Yeah, it just seems like we both are like, exactly. That's the whole point.
Here's the thing, man. People come, I see it in Martin's channel all the time. People come on my channel and they're like, where's your resolve tracker? Why aren't you tracking resolve? And like, at the end of the day, and I did now, and I put like a little percentage in the bottom left of my screen that I never look at at all, just so when people go, hey man, where's your resolve? I mean, like, it's like down there.
It's right there.
But you can't. The thing is, you can't. Okay, so you can't game it like you did with Vengeance, right? And so the only somewhat valid argument that some people make is, okay, but the things update dynamically now, right? You can't snapshot anymore, but what you can snapshot are absorbs. So if you have a particularly high Vengeance, you can snapshot like Shield Barrier and Guard and stuff like that. But then the real counter argument to that is you're not gonna have a boss attacking you, have him get you to 10% and be like, excuse me, sir, can you hang on a second while I make sure that I have like 2% higher resolve before popping my guard? Just like, don't kill me for a second.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. If you need to pop your absorb, you need to pop your absorb. You don't just like sit there trying to min-max your absorbs or whatever. You pop it because you need to survive. So it's just, you don't really ultimately gain everything from it. You can't really min-max it to a certain extent unless you're just trying to blanket absorbs like throughout the fight, which happens rarely, but in Mythic it's just not that applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like Suit's saying, the main reason I'm really tracking it is because a lot of times you can see like you can look at it afterhand and see like how much resolve you're getting when you're tanking this and how much resolve you're tanking that. But it's just like it's not really applicable to use to your advantage much. It's like it's just gonna be like you have this amount of resolve here or there. It's like just nice being able to see that and go back like afterhand and see how much you have. But it really, like, mid-fight, it's not like you're gonna look at it too much and be like, no, I'm gonna do something like my rotation changes because it's different now. It doesn't work that way.
I mean, because the only real band-aid I feel that resolve feels now is because obviously tank damage is supposed to be balanced around like 70%-ish of a DPS, right? It's all caked in. So now resolve is just this way that you can make tanks stronger in raids, but not gods outside of raids. Because if all your absorbs and heals were baseline all the time and didn't have any stacking things, you'd never die. You'd always, questing outside would be hilarious.
Either they'd be useless in raids or they'd be too strong in 5 months.
They need to scale. So I think they hit it on hit it properly there. So
okay,
good.
So as long as that feels better now, or it feels good enough. But I was curious if there was any way you'd pay attention to it.
They could basically just make it that when you enter a 5-man, you have 50% resolve at all times.
Yeah, give you a buff.
But then it's like then you can game it when you're off tanking and stuff. So
yeah.
I mean, they could make it like per 5-man. I don't know. Overall, I think resolve is a change for the better. And you know, I had fun with Vengeance and the sitting and then like the ridiculous 600, 700k Vengeance and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, my biggest problem with Vengeance is that okay, it promoted bad play, all the usual stuff the community's talking about. My biggest like bigger picture problem with it is that it like warped the tanking community's mind so that
Yeah.
everybody's metric of what is
Yep.
a good tank now is like, hey, that tank did like 500 DPS more than that other tank class. Everybody re-roll that tank. Like that's not, people lose sight of the fact that as a tank, your main job is to stay alive, and then if you can min-max DPS on top of that, great. You know, that's what makes you a better player or whatever it may be. But that shouldn't be your focus at the start.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's, and we'll get into that a little later in the show about like the damage propagation of tanks against each other right now, and how that's like the way that you game a tank, which is really the opposite of how you should. Which I'm sure on Warcraft logs now there was then Kira added some stuff where you can actually dig in and see like types of damage you took that you mitigated properly with based on your class. Like you can see what you absorbed properly, what you healed after, what you cooled down well, stuff like that. And that's sort of the way you should looking at them right now, because looking at them as in a damage point of view is sort of like they're not DPS classes, they're tanks. But that's what happened in
Paladin's
Mists.
pretty nerfed.
Well, you know, yeah. So the last thing about Resolve then, Resolve is baseline damage taken. If you cool down through hits, does that lower the Resolve gain, or is it based on the amount that was supposed to hit you in the first place?
It's as far as I remember, it's unmitigated, just like Vengeance was.
Okay. So it doesn't matter that you're shield walling through 50% of a piece of a hit on Gruul. You'll still get the full amount you would normally.
It shouldn't.
Oh.
Well, I think the timing bug still exists though, just like on Vengeance, so you could get if you do it at the proper times.
The timing bug.
Yeah, like in the end of Siege of Orgrimmar was a big bug. Like when if you get a big hit, if you time a cooldown at the exact right time, you get the damage reduction, but Vengeance is calculated like with a delay, so it thinks that you didn't have the cooldown up when you took. So basically, you take the full damage without the cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Vengeance thinks, but you actually took it. No, okay. So you take the damage without a cooldown, but the Vengeance is calculated afterwards. So when it looks like half a second later, it looks like, oh, it seems like I had a shield wall, and like basically 99% damage reduction up, and then basically it took a 800k hit with a 99% damage, and then boom, it skyrockets your Vengeance. And that one still exists in Resolve, but it's mitigated so quickly that it doesn't really have any applicable.
Yeah, what's the inner what's the inner cooldown on Resolve? Like how fast does it cycle? Isn't it like 6 seconds or so? The updates?
I think it decays really quickly.
Right.
Over like a history of 5 seconds, something
5?
like that. But it decays every like half second or second, like it re-updates its value.
Wow.
Like really quickly. So it's just that's the anti-gaming mechanics. You can't like taunt the boss, take a huge hit, and then have like 20 seconds of resolve or whatever it may be.
Okay, interesting. So that's what chat room. I just saw I'm looking in through and what is snapshotting, and the way of for resolve or how it used to be for vengeance is you would take gigantic hits, gain tons of vengeance, which would then increase your survivability and DPS, and then you would use cooldowns or use certain abilities or things to again, you're gaming the snapshot in that window. Where now Resolve just sort of is a continually like rolling. It's like a treadmill. Basically, you're always running forward on it. It updates faster, so there's really like a smoother way that it applies to you, I guess. So, yeah. Well, that's fair. A little better than it used to be. So now we've come to it. Again, we saw the Blackrock Foundry opened last week. We get Mythic on Tuesday.
Not Feifei.
Feifei's to... I know, right? See?
There we go. Problem solved.
So, what you've seen so far without, I guess, Sloot hopefully can't really give away, like, secrets and details, but what do you guys think, I'll go to you first on this one. What do you think so far in Blackrock Foundry that Prot Paladins are really good at? Any fights in particular? Any types of encounters that you're, out of the 10 we're getting? Are you dodging this one? Are you dodging this one? Are you dodging it?
I like most fights. Like they have a bit of issues with the movement compared to warriors and a few other classes, but otherwise, like there's so much abilities that does physical damage that you can just block with Shieldritis as well. So I still really like Paladins, how they play out in Foundry for sure.
Any fights in particular, Trekkie, you think are going to be
Tromog.
Chromog.
Tromag is really fun as a Prot Paladin because you can mitigate everything as with Shield Righteous. And Bobs and Bubble as well, because everything is physical, basically.
Everything's physical. All right. Fair enough. Sloot, getting me something. What do you think? What are you going to be awesome at? Are you? I mean, because you're going to be rotating around between tanks, I assume.
Yeah. I'm doing Midwinter's doing 5 clears right now. 5 10 out of 10s. We just finished 3 of them last night.
Yeah.
And it was 1 tank per. I mean, I just love tanking. It's whatever. Paladin's like ultimately it's a subjective thing. Which one's your favorite, right? So Paladin for me is just my favorite. It's the most fun, versatile to a certain extent. Blah 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 blah. But like versus the current content, I'm finding Paladins are definitely one of the strongest. But like it's like them and monks.
Yeah.
Like warriors just a bit behind that. Ultimately, I'll still be playing my Paladin probably for progression. I still love it. It's still really strong, etc., etc. But fights that I'm looking forward to. Yeah, Chromog's a lot of fun. Chromog's, I don't know why though, because it's not really a mechanically crazy fight. It's just because the tanks just constantly get trucks. It really, I don't know, it just keeps you on edge at all times.
Yeah, that's what
use
I
your
like.
cooldowns and active mitigation properly. And then Blackhand's obviously a blast. I was a bit underwhelmed. I'll give you the flip side of it. I was a bit underwhelmed by Iron Maidens, honestly.
Oh.
Just because on beta, like the 2 testings on beta, the first one was like completely whack. Like nobody knew anything what was going on. Abilities weren't working properly, whatever. And then the second time around, it was like, decent and really overtuned. And we're like, oh, this can be so hard. Then you like get to it now, and it's like the first 80% of the fight is like, and then
he's asleep.
And then they reach 100 energy, and you're like, whoa, you start like tanking and stuff, and then the fight just like ends, So it's kind of like I was really expecting. It's actually from the same. Fun fact: it's from the same designer that did Blackfuse. So big shoes to fill there.
You'd think like the Black Hand designer didn't have anything to do with like Thogar or Hans and Franz. Really went from Blackfuse to Iron Maidens. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Didn't know that.
Other trivia: do you know what boss he designed in Highmaul?
I don't want to blame a bad one on him because I love Blackfuse. Oh no,
Everybody's favorite Rock Mountain Tectis.
He really did Tectis, didn't it?
It was so funny because
well, you don't always bat 100, all right?
But that's the funny part. People were like praising him and everything for like Siegecrafter, and then it's like when you do the first testing on the Tectis, it's like this developer should be fired for this fight. It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh
I loved
man.
him a second ago, and it's like now you want to fire him? It's like okay, you can't win with some people, but
yeah, it goes a little back and forth, I'm sure. Damn. So fair enough. There's not really any, because Prot Paladins, in my outside looking in sort of perspective, are really good on like Margok. I was looking at like interrupts. Usually you think a lot of interrupts come from like your DPS and stuff, but the way that like Sacred Shield works, that you have like 1 baked in and 2 that can reset all the time, there really is nothing to interrupt in anywhere in
Avenger Shield.
with Avenger Shield, yeah. There's nothing. Is there any interrupt anything in Blackrock?
Yeah, Furnace. Furnace, yeah.
I guess Furnace, yeah.
Furnace. I think that's the only one, no?
Yeah.
Well, no, or Gorger.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's like the problem with Avenger Shield is that you're not gonna like unless there is a really really important interrupt you need to get. It's just gonna be in your rotation, and it's like it's an interrupt that is on your global cooldown. It's not a very reliable interrupt in the first place. So you're never gonna have like let's have Avenger Shield as one of the interrupts. You're always gonna have other people taking the interrupts.
Yeah.
With their off global cooldown.
Unless you like force the Paladin to hold it, which is like horrible for rotation.
That's like
you're not gonna like just sit on it.
Right.
So you're just gonna spam it away, and if it happens to interrupt something, it's like yay. But it can also throw people
was
off.
That tricky?
But it can also throw people off because it's like I was expecting to take that interrupt, and it was interrupted right away. And it's like, nah, it's a bit messy. I still wish we had like a minor glyph to remove the interrupt because on some fights it's actually a pain in the ass.
Actually bad. Yeah. That was the flip side of that argument, is because sometimes you have interrupt rotation set up and your Prot Paladin will avenge the shield, which like the next DPS in line is like, did I get that? Did someone you think it might be a tank, but then it throws off the overall like ladder or staircase that you're interrupting with, right? So that's a good thought, honestly. I wonder why there isn't a minor glyph for that to remove the interrupt.
Yeah, it seems like something that should be on there. But to be fair,
right.
I mean, can't think outside the like second boss in Everbloom, which they changed anyway. I can't really think of that many bad times when you want to interrupt, and then they changed it anyway. So like, who cares now?
Yeah,
So
they nerfed it exactly. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. How about like magic damage fights? Because like I guess it's a vindictive way to look at the fact that like you like Prot Warrior, which you said in like the whole damage like spectrum right now, they're usually really good on mobility fights because they are really mobile. Like you can't like if you had like Prot Paladin, or Prot Paladin Blood DK on Imperator Margok on Mythic, then like your whole strat changes. But if you're a Prot Warrior, you throw that buff across the room, jump across, whatever, no big deal. So, but like magic damage though, I mean, because with like Sacred Shield and Divine Protection and like Bracken Spore, you guys were great at. So is it still gonna roll down to? I'm trying to think like the fights that are really magic damage intensive. Infernus, maybe Flamebender.
Flamebender, Furnace, Thogar.
Yeah, Thogar. Yeah.
Man,
Other fights.
Other fights.
No, I don't think so.
So helpful.
I don't think there's
Love
any
it.
crazy Bracken Spore style magic fight this tier, or like God forbid, like Leishi style fight. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It all seems to be. I don't think any fights go beyond like mostly the usual dangerous boss, physical hits or add physical hits, and then on top of that there might be like a dot or something,
Yeah.
There's no like dot plus breath plus pulsing AoE like on Bracken Sport kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, Paladins are one of the best, just because of Holy Shield, one of the best at like sustaining magic damage.
Yeah.
Maybe not. They're like, I'd say like medium at like mitigating a massive burst because they don't have like guard or AMS or something.
And it's not
they're
100%
one of the best.
reliable, so.
True.
But it's like if it is
to get
continuous, if it is continuous AoE damage all the time, or like magic damage, it's still like it's a choice we have that actually makes it really really strong because no other tank can really like cope with that either much better anyway. So.
Right. Huh. Which I'm always kind of curious about. I mean, we'll get into stats in a little bit, but Sacred Duty was buffed, so you're getting more haste than you were before. I mean, is Shield of the Righteous, like your passive physical damage mitigation, eventually going to almost be up 100% of the time? Like, can you almost do that right now with Lucky Procs?
I mean, if you have like Lucky Procs, sure, it'll be up the whole time. So I was just messing with my camera, by the way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you have good RNG, you have good RNG. The thing is now that we're haste, like we're gonna see the same situation happen that we did in SOO because we're a haste build again, right? The main haste is so attractive for us.
Yep.
So we'll get back to 50% haste, and we'll have the same uptime and Lucky Divine Purpose procs, and then on top of that, GC mechanics have changed for Avenger Shield because it has both defensive and offensive, so maybe even a higher uptime. We'll see.
Yeah.
Theoretically, sure, you can reach like 100%. Like realistically, though, I mean,
it's more about effective uptime though. Like if you're like swapping tanks and all that kind of stuff, because like you have Holy Avenger for more effective uptime on like fights where you tank 50% of the time, for example, which is can be really really effective. But then when you're tanking all the time, 100%, it's like not as like it covers like a period of time and stuff, and that same with Divine Purpose if you had Lucky Procs, but
yeah.
Not 100%, no.
Because it just feels like that's such a smooth, built-in mechanic. And the only other tank that sort of has something that is that sort of passive is sort of like bears and monks. Because, like, warriors have to actively block or barrier, right? To, like, get their uses out of it. And, of course, DKs have to time death striking. Whereas you just sort of DPS to get...
SOTR is like one of the like least fluent. If anything, like Shuffle is the most.
It's the worst.
Right? Oh, you think really?
Yeah.
It's just like
it's so much. It's so much like micromanagement to try to keep your shit righteous up and like other cooldowns to fill in those.
You got to remember, aside from DKs who have their own like kind of unique active mitigation mechanics with DS and whatever and Blood Shield, every other tank class has like their active mitigations on a 6-second timer, right? Paladin's on a 3-second timer, so all of a sudden you have like, just half the reaction time to deal with what's next, and resource pooling Zondo is the greatest, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's definitely not as fluent as like Shuffle. Shuffle's just like always up.
It's always there, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I bring that up to see what the flip is on that because I don't tank. I mean, my only tank is a Protection Paladin, but I've never done anything at the level that you guys do, so not not too
Well, I
familiar.
chose the best one.
That's interesting. Well, right. Well, I chose a Ret Paladin as my alt because it's basically an easier version of my main. It's Baby Hance is Ret Paladin right now. It's so simple compared to Hantsman Shaman. It's so easy. My goodness. But yeah. Well, I guess that brings me now to the battle gear of Guiding Light, which is your tier 17, right? Which is looking at other tank bonuses. I honestly was like, the hell? These are so good. Like, am I wrong here? So your 2-piece bonus, right? Let's break these down for chat room if they don't know. Your 2-piece bonus is that whenever you Avenger Shield, you get plus 12% block chance for 5 seconds. All right? But then your 4-piece is when you block, you have a chance to gain 20% block value for 8 seconds on a 1.5 RPPM. Right? So about once and twice a minute, mostly. So, like, on top of Shield of the Righteous, which is reduce incoming physical damage, then you get a higher block chance and more block value. Like, what? That's really good. Right?
I mean, it's not bad.
Well, it's not bad.
It's
Have
not
you seen those
bad.
warrior bonuses, though?
Yeah, but Warrior 2-piece is like it's strong as hell as well.
Yeah, well, their 2-piece is the only thing they have good about it. Yeah, I guess.
And what's the 4-piece is 5% more block when you have shield block. It was just kind of like,
Yeah,
oh,
it
when I'm taking no damage,
I'll take less than no damage, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
that's why I kind of feel like the block thing. But like the 2-piece is really nice, and it's like you like Sloot was saying before, because Avenger Shield now Grand Crusader procs from both dodging attacks and using your Crusader Strike or Hammer Righteous. Like especially dodging part, if you're tanking a lot of targets, it's gonna proc like all the time. So basically, if you're tanking 5 targets, you're gonna have that 2-piece proc all the time.
Right.
And then the 4-piece is like, well, I'm like, if I'm already blocking, because it only reduces damage when I'm already blocking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm taking 40% less damage, now I'm taking 60% less damage anyway. But
Right.
I don't know. The 4-piece is like, it's not like you're not gonna go for it, because the tier pieces can be Warforged and sockets as well.
Yep.
So you're gonna go for 4-piece, but I mean, I'd prioritize the 2-piece, but not so much a 4-piece.
What do you think, Sloot?
I completely agree with that. Here's my beef with 4-piece. It sounds great and whatever, let's say 1.5, so like 12 seconds out of, every minute. That's great. The problem is, as a tank, you want control, and you can't control when that procs up.
Okay.
With Avenger Shield, you can kind of control it. If Avenger Shield is coming up, or you have GC procs, whatever it may be, you can kind of control, okay, I get an extra 12%, even though it's like still binary, like you might block, you might not, so it's not great in that sense, but on average, throughout an entire fight, it helps a lot. But for 4-piece, you can't control when it's up. It might be up at, a crappy time when the boss is getting his last swing on you and the next tank's taunting in. Or it might proc at exactly the perfect time, you don't really know. So I completely agree with Trekkie. Like 2-piece for sure, I would gun for right away, and then ultimately I would want 4-piece, but I wouldn't. I don't think it's a massive deal.
If other classes have better set bonuses and can utilize the Conquer tokens better, I'd give them to them.
Interesting. So I mean, I understand that and the background of how you want your control as a tank. But like looking at on the paper, the napkin math of how much damage that looks like it could literally just block. I mean, there aren't a ton of times where you're like not tanking something, right? So I mean, yeah, but you could like get your 4-piece proc and then you tank swap, and you're like, yay, it's doing nothing. That's tough.
Right, yeah.
That could happen. But I wonder, like, in overall, the entire encounter, I wonder when logs start having the 4-pieces in them, when you can actually go through and look at the proc and how much damage is mitigated by said thing. I want to see how much that's a big deal.
Yeah, but effective damage mitigated is not really, like, over the whole fight. Isn't very interesting to see either. So it's like, when you die, it's like you gotta focus on, like, shorter intervals of, like, damage spikes, and, like, you can't control the 4-piece. So if it doesn't proc when you need it, it's kind of useless, and then procs when you don't need it. So it's like,
yeah,
it's nice to have. It's a bonus. It's like, it's good, but it's not like you can't rely on it. Yeah, sure. When it procs, it can be like, okay, I can maybe not use my other cooldowns, but
right.
Even then, it's like, even with you have 30% block. If giving it the best circumstance. You have another 15 from Holy Shield. Still gives you a 45% chance to block something with 60% instead of 40, which still is a coin toss if you're gonna take no damage or a lot of damage. So
True. Yeah. No, I just wonder, do you guys feel like you need... There's no, like, damage right now. It's frustrating watching it happen because there's still some very, like, Lich King-ish sort of interesting parts with tanks right now. The whole new healing model, it's like, tanks should have smooth damage patterns. There's not a time where you're either going to be, like, 100% or dead, but there's still some times where you're either, like, 100% or almost dead. That still happens, which I...
Well, it's like they tried to move away from exactly what you're saying to have,
Right.
like, more incremental damage, more incremental healing. And I feel like ultimately it's just where it was before.
Yeah.
it
like-
didn't change much at all.
Like a lot of these bosses, even now on Heroic, were, hitting me for like over a third of my health. I can
Yep.
only imagine in Mythic it's, 2 hits you're dead, 2.5 hits you're dead, whatever. So it's kind of just almost the same boat as
Yep.
it was before. So nothing's really changed in that regard. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like the healers are like focusing all the tanks either. Yeah, you have more focus now than in Siege of Wargame we literally had none.
Because all the free triage healing cloaks and all that other crap, all the hots and things, yeah.
Beacons.
Beacons. Well, yeah, that's true. So I guess with the 5-piece set, are you looking at taking all 5 based on the itemization of it, or is there an off piece that you're gonna take, and which one is that off piece?
I'm gonna take legs from, I think it's Flamebender, just because haste
Okay.
really. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Right.
So 4-piece other than legs,
Okay.
ultimately.
Well, this is also gonna depend a little bit on what pieces you can get if you're gonna go for
Of
4
course.
pieces, and what pieces get Warforged, what pieces get a socket.
Yeah.
So, like,
no.
It's a bit problematic, but like best in saw. I guess I haven't actually looked about it because I stopped caring a bit. So it's like, yeah, legs
Stop
probably.
caring.
Yeah,
I know.
Shocked.
I'm never gonna get 4Ps, so.
No, I guess that makes sense, though. I mean, the new system is definitely... set bonuses had to have the chance to get tertiary sockets and Warforging. I still think Warforging is so stupid in Mythic rating, personally, but...
Warforging, yeah. Well,
you're at the highest echelon of content. Why doesn't it drop the
Yeah.
best gear? Yada, yada, yada. That whole old, The
So
cow,
what
the
would you
cow
say?
is hamburgers right now, and we've already eaten it. It's so gone. Yeah. Exactly.
So what would you say that every Mythic bosses should drop guaranteed Warforged?
No, I'm saying that Mythic bosses just drop Mythic gear, period. Like, there's no other round about it. I guess gem sockets can be your random, and tertiaries can be random, but, like...
Then it's just the same issue.
then-
The gem
yeah,
sockets are a
same
huge deal
thing.
right now.
That's like going back to Siege of Wargame. It's just like, hey,
But
can
right
be Warforged.
now, you've got Warforged, tertiaries, and gem sockets. So what if you get a set bonus piece that's Warforged? What if you get one that only has a gem socket? What if you get one that's gem socket and tertiaries but not Warforged?
Then you
It's
throw
just
the tertiaries
frustrating.
That one out a window. And
Well, yeah. Well, what if it has? What if it has
Actually,
avoidance?
yeah, but
Funny story. I just rolled tier gloves from I think Maidens,
Yeah.
and then you do the whole. Oh, by the way, I got to rant about this in a second. So you open the tier piece and then you find out if it's Warforged
Clicky.
or socketed or whatever.
Right.
And then it was normal. It had like leech on it. So since we're trying to gear mains and stuff, they're like, oh, here, have another tier set token. Try again. So I did. I got
my
Warforged.
God.
But so the problem that I'm about to say is I don't understand. There's already so much variance to like RNG to Warforged and sockets and tertiary stats, like you're saying. Why on earth would they just not on the token say this token will be Warforged?
Yeah.
Or this token will be socketed. It would save so much time. They're probably getting like hundreds of tickets a day now, being like, "Oh, I tried, it
Yeah.
didn't work. Can we give this
Yeah.
piece of loot to someone else now?"
Yep. Yeah. The token that drops should say Mythic Warforged.
I think it should be a better one. Would be like basically have the sockets be a reward for like end bosses or like a A-tier piece that you enchant your items with a socket, or like the Warforged, so that you could reliably get them instead of just.
I have a
like,
devil's advocate suggestion here. Ready? This might make some of you angry in chat, or make some of you go, "Yes, yay, something finally." So obviously reforging is gone, and obviously item upgrades are gone, and gem sockets are very, very random, and they're like the new little, carrot on a stick, where hunt for gem sockets, it's neat, it's rare. Apexis crystals are pretty much useless. What if you could dump and crush like 10,000 Apexis crystals into giving a piece of gear a gem socket? They are very powerful shards of this ancient, powerful empire. They're already a gem thing anyway. And I've been sitting on 20,000 for like the launch of the game. It has nothing to do with them.
I would actually inject a syringe full of air into myself if that happened.
Really?
Because
I
don't
want to do them daily.
You got to think about this from like a top progression standpoint.
Right. Okay.
For
yeah.
all these guilds, nobody's ever gonna sleep again, and everyone's just gonna be farming the pit for 3 Apexis crystals per mob until they just die. And then you're gonna see all these news reports all over the news. Maybe like Bald Guy dies in his apartment, like in his underwear, farming Apexis crystals at his keyboard, and you're gonna be arrested.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's a bad idea.
Do Apexis have like a weekly cap though? You can't. You just get to 20,000, then you can get to 0 and 20,000 and get to 0. Yeah. Well,
then you make it a weekly quest.
That's what I mean. You get you can crush down. Yeah. It's just there's nothing to do with Apexis crystals. It's so nothing happens with them. Like, you get nothing. They're a dead system. And
I agree. I was like out of the initial like WoD launch hype, because it's fun, the whole gear, to me at least, the whole gear grinded dungeon grind, and it's you don't sleep, but it's fun. But you're right. I mean, they just had no longevity, right? They were done after you got what
the 680 ring.
The 680 ring. That's it.
Yep.
Now just
you started gearing for like the other pieces at 640 epics or whatever that you could get, but they literally require you to get like 40,000 of them.
Yeah.
To get an epic piece that's the same as the challenge mode thing. He says like, and then it's completely obsolete as soon as LFR opens up. Anyway,
if say one of the Arakoa that want the Apexis in the first place, because it's a harken back to their old civilization, whatever. If they had a weekly where you can crush like 10,000 to get 1 gem socket, like I think it would help a little bit of incentivizing, because you're not going to put gem sockets on not mythic gear, right? So you finally get that mythic Warforged piece. I'm like, yeah, let's crush these 10,000 Apexis. Get that 1 gem socket a week, right? Because the RNG on it's going to be, who knows if you're ever going to get full BIS mythic Warforged ever. That's the whole point, though, right?
Yeah.
So, because it would just give something. It would give something, I guess, to not obviously the chat room freaked out because there was no there's no limit. You can keep doing it. You're gonna die in your bed. Yeah. Die farming in front of your computer. But no.
I just think it's kind of
something.
With drops, I think it's kind of sad when you have someone have a mythic piece, and then the mythic piece that with a socket drops, and then he will get it because it's an upgrade when someone else could otherwise get it for another spec or whatever. Yeah. And then drops Warforged, and it's like he's gonna get a third one. It's like it just kind of sucks for like other specs and stuff. But.
Here's the thing with what you're suggesting. It's not like a horrible idea, and it's kind of fun, but it would just loop back exactly into the mentality that they were trying to move away from with
Mists,
with Valor. It's just something else to farm for the week, some other annoying chore that I have to do at the end of this week.
True.
I got to farm my daily 1,000 Apexis because I have to min-max sockets, and then it would also contradict their whole new mentality that loot is supposed to be fun and Noah's could be anything when it drops. Like have a socket, because then sockets just wouldn't matter. Ultimately, you just have a socket on everything.
That's true. Yep. All right,
but I do agree. Apexis needs like some of the resources that they have needs some other dumps, especially Apexis, because garrison resources. I'm like capping on some tunes almost, and I can't avoid it almost.
I'm capped on all 3 of mine. Yeah.
But there's stuff to do with them. You could buy your coins for the week. You could trade it in at the trading post. You could do whatever. But like Apexis crystals just don't really have any purpose outside of like.
There's a lot of stuff to do with GRs in 6.1, which you argue they should have been in at launch, but it is what it is. But no, the whole argument and the whole topic here about gearing and stats and stuff like that is because I wanted to talk about your stat priorities. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Obviously, haste is your attunement stat, which Luke was in Sacred Duty. Which lowers the cooldown and the GCD of stuff you do to gain holy power, right? Your holy power generators. So where do you lay, I'll go with you first, Sloot, where do you lay your 5 secondary stats in order of like best to worst for Prot Paladin?
I would do 6, yeah. Bonus armor is just...
Well, I don't count, best, right? I'm not going to count bonus armor because that's the best for all tanks.
Spec. Okay. So it would be, for me, haste, and then the big debate for everyone always comes, crit or mastery after that. For me, personally, it's mastery. Like, crit will probably gain you a bit of extra damage, as important as, an extra 50 to 100 DPS is, if even. Whereas, like, mastery for me just kind of... since it's a percentage scaling, you get such ridiculous things happening, and you can see it, for instance, in Monk Guard and stuff too, when like you have, bonus armor trinket proc, and you use like a mastery or whatever, and then you have a mastery build too, because the AP scaling is percent based. So all of a sudden you get this huge surge in attack power, which will probably scale even crazier later, like next year or whatever. And it just helps all aspects. It helps your SOTR mitigation. It helps your sacred shields that's constantly taking. It helps your SOI takes if those are going through, et cetera, et cetera. Crit helps some of those things too. But my problem with crit and avoidance builds in general, because what does crit do defensively for you, right? It's avoidance, right? It's parry. It adds to your parry. So my biggest beef is that, just like Martin mentioned earlier, with block it's a chance for something to happen, right?
Yep.
It's a chance that you will parry, which is good, and then on top of that, there's a secondary chance that you will proc a GC Avenger Shield, and that's great, and it helps, and everybody likes to spam Avenger Shield and all that, but it's still a chance. Whereas with Mastery, you know what you're getting. When I pop my Shield of the Righteous, it will, have an extra 1 or 2% mitigation based on how much Mastery you're stacking. Or when my Sacred Shield takes, it'll be X% larger because the AP scaling will help from Mastery, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, Mastery just is like, it's the better smoothing or survival option, however you want to put it, over crit. I don't think it's a huge deal between the two, honestly. Right. And honestly, gear choice at this point, you don't have like 10 pieces of gear that you can't really perfectly every secondary stat for.
Right.
So it's not really a huge deal. I just kind of like look at a haste piece. If there's 2 haste pieces on it, the chances of there being 2 pieces of gear equally with haste, and then one as mastery and as crit is just like not even a thing at the moment.
Yeah. Right.
But I personally would go with mastery, just slightly over, like mastery, the whole like greater than equals to
right.
crit, and then after that it was versatility multi-strike, but they buffed multi-strike in 6.1.
So it's
in 6.1.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually, and by I mean I haven't like eaten Theck's brains about it yet, but
yet.
I don't really know where it's simming. I would predict that it like maybe sims higher than like versatility, but I don't see multi-strike like replacing haste or mastery or crit or anything like that. Just guesstimate.
Okay. Things to add on that, Trekkie?
No, my list is pretty much exactly the same. I would also go like mastery or crit. Is like crit is like its avoidance is like if you look at the whole fight, you will see like a difference between one or the other. Or if you're looking at like if you're tanking a lot of targets, then obviously avoidance is really good, and it's actually like really good offensively for those Grand Crusader procs as well. But mastery is a safe like you use your Shield Righteous, you know what you're getting from it. So while the other one is random, defensively at least. So offensively, crit over mastery, but like you're gonna go for haste anyway. And if the other piece has crit or haste, it doesn't matter. You take one of them.
Okay.
And then versatility. I would say versatility over, at least now, versatility over multi-strike, of course, and it's still debatable in 6.1. Depends on how strong it ends up being. Because versatility is just reliable as well.
The multi-strike interaction with Prot Paladins again is that the heals on you, right? Is that, I forgot what it's called. What is that thing called?
Shining Protector.
Yeah, there it is. Where's the read of this thing?
It's a 30% chance for any healing, external or from you, to it's an X% chance equal to your multi-strike for any incoming heal, including your own, to heal for an extra 30%.
30% triggered heal. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So in 6.1 they made it 2 chances, not just 1.
So it actually interesting.
So we'll, like basically a lot of healers will heal you for 30% more, which actually
of the triggered amount heal. Yeah.
But that depends on what kind of fight it is as well. If it's a smooth damage fight, then it's really strong. If it's a spike fight, then you're usually getting spike healed anyway, so that
it'll just help a lot with throughput, basically.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But if it's like Martin saying a fight where you just get like 2-shot and
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that 2k heal.
So then
Gotcha.
What do you guys use for weapon enchants then? Are you going with the is it Blackrock as the armor proc one, or are you guys going with actually like the haste or the mastery?
Debatable. No, mastery is. I don't think mastery is really much of a choice over the armor one. Maybe it has some other intervention, but I would probably rank. I would probably rank haste higher than the armor one, just because it can proc at all times, especially during the pull and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, I think because the way Blackrock procs, it's pretty good, but I don't know. Pretty close.
Okay. Sloot, what do you think? Weapon enchants.
I generally agree. I think overall in like the big picture package of what tanking styles like, I think haste is maybe the slightly better option. Um, the, like he's saying, it can proc offensively. It procs offensively. So when you're off tanking, whatever it may be, you're at least contributing some DPS a bit more, whatever. The bonus with Blackrock is that it procs when you need it to, right? It guaranteed to proc if something's hitting you, dip below 6 or whatever percent, 60% health, it'll proc. It's up. If something's tagging you. Now that's not always great, right? What if you're just attacking the boss and there's like heavy AoE or something, or what if the boss procs it like we said earlier, just when you're swapping tanks? So it's not really all like dandy rainbows that we're talking about, but usually it will proc when you need it to. The thing with haste, haste works on the Blackrock works on an ICD mechanic, right? So it cannot proc more than I think 40 seconds, once every 40 seconds, whereas haste is an RPPM mechanic. And that scales with haste. It doesn't double dip in itself, but it scales with haste. And Prot Paladins are stacking haste. So you actually, the more haste you accumulate, you'll actually see a slightly higher uptime more and more from the war song, I think it is, for haste than you would with Blackrock.
That's true. That's true. I wonder, I mean, that weapon enchants might change based on the encounters you're doing. I wonder if, like, Blackrock might shine better in, like, challenge modes, since you're, like, going to be at low health a lot because you're pulling, like, the entire freaking dungeon. You don't really need more haste. But I guess in a raiding environment, then, yeah, I would imagine haste would
when
probably
you're swapping and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Because it not only does give you a little bit more damage, but obviously haste for Prot Paladins equals mitigation as well, so, okay.
Yeah, right.
Fair enough.
Right, it's not a pure scumbag in chat for damage or anything.
Right.
It does help, believe it or not.
So, I don't want to take up too much time bringing up this next topic. That's a little bit of a hotbed that just recently happened. And, of course, the nails in the coffin of Seal of Truth come with 6-1. For a while here, in Highmaul anyway, Protection Paladins were basically a DPS that outranked nearly half of all other DPS classes in the world based on your eye level and how good the Prot Paladin was and yada, 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 yada. But they were doing a little bit too much damage, which I would imagine that many people would agree upon, and that's why the nerfs came. I think the nerfs are in a different way now, but of course Seal of Truth was punched in the face, and then it's being removed in 6-1 for Prot Paladins. You basically only have Seal of Insight, which is your auto attacks heal, and the Righteousness, which is your auto attacks do 12% more weapon damage to things around you. And yeah, so healing for sustain is 0 DPS gain, and now you only have Righteousness for extra damage. So, I mean, are you guys okay with what just happened, Sloot? I mean, Seal of Truth was a choice to have AoE, single target, or healing, but like...
Sure,
Yeah,
exactly. It was a fun choice. And the fun, like, I don't know if, like, the start of MOP, the exact same thing happened. They left SOT at normal for all specs and whatever, and then, like, a month into the content, they're like, 80% nerf for Prot. And they did the exact same value nerf this time around, about a month or two into the expansion. Anyways, but the thing is, these are not a random string of events. Like, if you actually take a step back for a second and think about it, like, this was all planned by Blizzard, presumably, right? Because this all started with, okay, well, Prot Paladins are doing too much damage. Empowered Seals sucks. What can we do, right? Because Empowered Seals, we can't just keep buffing the values because nobody's using it because of the mechanics.
Yep.
So what are we going to do? Okay, Paladins are too strong. We got to nerf SOT. Oh, wait. Let's nerf SOT. Let's get rid of SOT. We can't do it until there's a patch update. That's why SOT's still here, but it does less damage than SOR. So let's get rid of SOT. By getting rid of SOT, we only have 2 seals left for Empowered Seals. All of a sudden, mechanically becomes way easier, and then we can scale the numbers. So, like, this is, like, probably been in the works for a long time.
Right.
This whole, like, planning to get rid of it. It's just that, people see a patch note and they're like, and then they see another one, and they're like, but like, it's just like, you get it bit by bit. But this, like, the ultimate goal is probably Empowered Seals. There's just 2 seals for Paladins. You have a damage one, you have a healing one, whatever.
Yep.
I'm not that happy with it because it's constantly, you're being either pigeonholed or choices constantly being taken out. Part of the reason why I hate that, like, Avenging Wrath is gone. It just, like, lowers skill capping to a certain extent, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, though, right?
Yeah. Anything on that, Trekkie, before I bring up the other pink elephant about this whole DPS situation?
No, the main thing is really, like, how everyone has always been complaining about empowered seals. They've tried making empowered seals. They've wanted people to be swapping, but that basically means that the ability pruning gave us 3 new abilities to press. few if you only swapped if you didn't use the heal, which became the norm anyway in the end anyway. But yeah, so swapping based between those two all the time, it's like just adding to your rotation, just making it annoying. So
Yep.
yeah, they probably just wanted to try to get rid of that one or simplify it at least. So the nerf to Zero Truth was just like basically a band-aid fix to try to get rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Again, it goes on this whole different mentality that arguably tanks should do damage. The damage should be meaningful, I suppose, because they're doing it. But it shouldn't be like, yeah, let's just take 7 Prot Paladins because they devalue half of the DPS specs in the game, and they'll live forever, right? Like, that can't happen. And I don't think that ever really did, but that can't happen. That's why Gladiator got nerfed so much in the beginning of the expansion, because you shouldn't be bringing Prot Warriors that replaces Arms and Fury Warriors. It just doesn't work that way. You shouldn't.
Or
It's
have
bad
your
game
Arms
balance.
and Fury go Prot.
Yeah, exactly. Have Arms and Fury go Prot, which is not a spec they A, want to play, or A, want to gear for. B, want to gear for, I guess. So the other culprit in this was Seraphim. Now, it's Inquisition 2.0. It really is. It does have a skill cap because you have to make sure you got that 5 holy power on the GCD that comes up to basically proc it right when it falls off, when it comes off cooldown, which is, whatever. Hunger for Blood, again, yay, it's back. But you guys have it now. So it's coupled with that, but I honestly don't think it was really Seraphim. And they're looking at nerfing Seraphim in 6.1, cutting it down for Prot Paladins to 750 of all stats.
They already said this live.
Oh, it's already live? Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Go back, yeah.
I thought it was actually going to be it was talked about. Okay, well but it did.
It just like the tooltip they didn't change.
My thought about it is Sanctified Wrath. Why, as a tank, do you have all these abilities to hit for like 2 to 6 to 8k, 10k here and there, and then one hits for 80,000? If you take Sanctified Wrath, your Holy Wrath is like it is huge nuke.
Right.
Yeah. But really, Sanctified Wrath wasn't the thing that made Paladins do so much damage. It was Holy Avenger.
Holy Avenger with
just kind
Seraphim.
of everything together. Like
yeah, coupling.
Seraphim,
yeah.
Holy Avenger, trinkets,
Seraphim is
pots, execution sentence on top of all that.
Yeah.
It's like the thing is, they really work to like eliminate, and I don't know why ultimately, honestly, but they work to kind of eliminate all these DPS CDs for tanks, like Wreck's gone and all this other stuff's gone. Really, just like Wreck and Wings, and but at the end of the day, you have all these other abilities through specking that you can use to really pool up a lot of CDs and do some crazy burst damage. And the reason Paladins can burst so high is because they have these abilities that they can all kind of pile together, and warriors have some, and warriors are getting buffed to avatar, and some of the other tank classes don't really have that, but they have really good sustain. Like monks are one of the higher DPS tanks at the moment, but a lot of their stuff is through sustain, right? Or you have like Shuen or whatever it may be, so they don't have like Chi Avenger and like Chi Seraphim.
Well, they do though.
Stuff.
They have what's it called?
Serenity.
They have one.
Serenity, yeah.
Serenity.
Yeah, but Serenity is like Blackout Kick doesn't really hit that hard, right? The majority of your stuff is really just, and it's like 10 seconds. But either way, so Paladins have all these cooldowns they can pull together, and that's why you do crazy burst damage. But the problem is, Blizzard have put themselves in a point where, okay, well, what are we going to tune around? Paladins doing this kind of damage. Okay, well, let's nerf their damage. But then that anytime you don't take this combination of abilities, your damage is going to be piss poor.
Exactly. That's sort of, I mean, I don't want to talk about seal twisting just yet on Empowered Seal, so we'll leave that until after the break. But this whole thing propagates that I thought, and again, these are things they say that don't always happen, that tanks were going into Draenor with no vengeance, but being basically 70% of a DPS on average, right? So they're meaningful, but they're not beating DPS classes. That is our job, is to do the damages. Your guys just hit with the tank in the face, hit with the boss in the face, and move them around the room. So, but right now, DPS increase, tanks are going for DPS increases. It seems to be misguided. This is what Theck wanted me to bring up. Is it worth potentially wiping on the boss because your tank is going for damage versus your tank just going for surviving? Like gemming and enchanting and gearing and talenting and glyphing, all for survival, as a tank should. And I'll go with Trekkie first. What do you think of the situation in your opinion on your side? I'm going to go to Sloot. Like, is that... What do you think as a tank?
See, the thing is, like, all the stats are both defensive and offensive, so you can't
Sure,
really
sure.
even if you stack only the strongest one that is offensive, you're still gonna get quite a lot of defensive value as well. So I think it's kind of good. Like, it's fine. And if you can do that, like, your main focus is still to survive. If you can do that and try to max out DPS like as much as humanly possible, fine. But dying is always a DPS loss, right? So just like anyone else, and the tank has a bit more significance as at staying alive. So if you need to stay alive, that's your job, and then you
Right.
need to do everything else as well if you want to be more effective. But staying alive is your well, that goes for the whole raid, but it's the tanks obviously have more focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think anyone in chat could disagree with the fact that, like, you can lose some damage, lose some healers, and you can still relatively do boss fights, right? If you're a 30-man rating or Mythic, it changes a little bit because sometimes tightly tuning stuff, losing a DPS or two, you're hosed. But there's no time when you've used your first res and your tank dies that you're like, we can keep going, guys. Don't worry, we got this for 4.5 minutes. We only have one tank. No, you're done, more or less. So, yeah, I don't know. Sloot, go for it, man. What do you think about this whole disparity right now on the misguidedness?
Yeah, it just there's a lot of factors it depends on, right? And some of it is skill. You gotta ask yourself, what's the risk trade-off here? Is it worth me doing an extra like 200 DPS at the loss of like parrying less or whatever it may be? If there's like a ridiculous scumbag trade-off, like people using harsh words instead of using SOTR,
Yeah.
like
Right.
that's just silly. Like that's just like over the top. Like just play DPS class at that point. You're not, you know what I mean? Like you're taxing your healers mana, whatever. But if you can make like an intelligent trade-off to, that like would benefit DPS a bit more, I'm okay with it. If you have the skill to back it up, make sure you're smoothing and all that properly. That's okay. But I don't think it should be anything ever ludicrous. And like Martin's saying, like you should never lose sight of the fact that your job is to stay alive as a tank. And the thing is, there's so many factors that mask it, right? Because your healers can be really good and they can make up for the fact that you're kind of, scumbagging your trinkets and doing whatever to get that extra bit of damage off. But, you got to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Do you really need that like outside of like, the only example that people really think about is like Butcher, right? Outside of like Butcher pulls, like, is DPS really that down to like a 1 second, like 50k in rage that we need that tank damage? And can any other of the 19 to 29 people in the raid have made up that damage without making the tank risk dying all the time?
Right.
Or are the healers good enough? Like, the community sometimes gets really warped by, just like a build, like Fergosi, right? He did a lot of damage. And the thing is, behind the scenes, because people don't post their logs, a lot of tanks were doing that kind of damage, but it was publicized, and he used Scabbard, which is not really that great defensively and all that
Right.
stuff. And the healers are good enough to keep him up through it, and that's great. But like little John over there can come over and like spec into like Spirit or something, and then have like a really good RNG variance with like trinket procs and all this kind of stuff, and GC procs, which is ultimately what a lot of the damage for Paladins comes down to. There's a lot of RNG involved. And then you get like some super crazy parse, and then everyone goes, oh my god, like John, he knows what's going on, let's all go spec Spirit. But like really, like the healers were super taxed, but they managed to keep him up and all this stuff. So I don't know, sometimes it's worth the trade-off, but like I think it's something that should come secondary. Like when you're in a progression fight, you should be gearing for survivability, and then as you learn, okay, I'm like indestructible, kind of whatever, okay, I'll start to trade and maybe swap like a strength trinket over like Pillar, which is like a stem, like
Sure. Okay.
bonus armature, whatever, maybe,
Yeah.
Generally when you start learning an encounter, your job is to survive so that you can see more of the encounter. If then you realize like you need more DPS, or like you realize that this isn't like heavy at all, then you do like these swaps, and then more tries you have on the boss, the more swaps you have according to, because you get more used to the fight, and then it's just easier and easier to survive because you know the fight.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I just didn't know, because it feels like the tanks feel. I don't know if like the proportion of tanks that feel like bad because the vengeance is gone now, so they can't do like real damage. Now I have to find like, how do I do real damage and how do I do more? Which I really hope that slowly fades away, because tanks are supposed to be the ones that tank. They position, They are the ones that swap with their off tank, main tank. It's that sort of deal, right? If you die, most of the time you're gonna wipe, and hopefully that helps somewhere sort of quell this weird like I'm gonna do so much damage and never die because my healers will keep me alive. But then if healers are healing the crap out of you, they're not healing the raid. So, yeah.
It's like everyone, like I was saying before, like that when you're dead you do no damage, but
Yeah,
as
of
a
course.
DPS, it's mechanically you need to avoid the mechanics.
Sure,
to
of course,
survive.
of course.
As a tank, it's another mechanic to try to survive as well.
Exactly.
Added on top of that, so
Yeah.
I mean you should aim to try to dish out as much DPS as you're comfortable doing while surviving, pretty much.
No, I get you.
I also never, but damage is like, I agree, it should feel a bit relevant, but I never ever want to go back to like DS tanking when you're just a meat shield.
Yeah.
You don't do anything.
Sure.
You're basically healing the boss with your melee.
No, I agree. You're not supposed to just stand there and take hits and your raid kills it. You should, help commit to that. But yeah, like again, before all these little changes, and some of the tank classes right now are still sort of seeing it, but that comes down to numbers tweaking on different DPS classes, is that you can see tanks out damaging DPS classes. Then how does it make DPS feel? Like the tank can out DPS me all the time. My only job is to hit the boss and do damage. And I'm not trying to like say I'm like this different eye level casual, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm hitting 3 buttons as a hunter, whatever. It's you can see based on like overall eye level scaling that this still happens. And I don't know if that's how it should be, but we'll see. Well, I'm going to take a minute real quick. We'll move along. I'm going to talk about some things behind the scenes and some communities that you guys may not have known about. We're talking about all this damage and stuff right now. I don't know if you know who Ask Mr. Robot is. They had a lot of stuff in the past, and their new thing now is info-graphical combat logs, and they're super cool. So I'm bringing up my Gruul heroic kill here. And again, it's infographical. You get all these different like medians and DPS, like your raid's DPS versus all the different logs that are currently posted for heroic Gruul. Potion uses, avoidable damage, how much shatter damage you took, overwhelming blows. Then you get like this different, all these like this you can have to choose players to compare. So I'm gonna bring up myself. Where's me? There I am. Boop. So I'm gonna compare myself against the median that's currently happening right now, and like your character's on the left, and the raid is on the right. You compare yourself against your raid, so your damage, your average percentile, is it good for the gear you have currently? We've only obviously had one kill, and we just walked in and killed him, so obviously no one's like min-maxing all this time. But it's very simple, and again, it's a graphical, an infographic sort of type of combat log, and some people might be a little overwhelmed with Warcraft logs. So if you guys want to, the link is right down below. You can start uploading your logs with the Ask Mr. Robot add-on. And start looking at your logs with your guild. Get in there. Play with it. Learn some stuff. It's really, really nice. I'm super excited for this. I use both this one and, of course, Warcraft logs for different reasons. And then, of course, if you want some more Prot Paladin knowledge, there's 2 websites I can tell you to go check out. Right now, it's going to be Sloot's website, which there's a picture that's not on your website still, Sloot. What do you got? You got?
I'm working on it, man. I'm sorry. You know how much stuff I need to update on that site? I don't have time with all this busy life playing video games and stuff,
I'm showing your weak auras page right now. These are still a lot of really great weak auras. These all still working?
Yep, those are all updated, yep.
These are all like super good. There's even got some ones for Highmaul. I'm assuming you'll put up some ones for Blackrock Foundry specifically as well.
Yeah, those will be at the bottom.
Yeah. These are for all tanks. If you guys are a tank in any sort of thing, and consolidated tech, I might be using your consolidated buff text here soon. Actually, the icons are getting a little old. So yeah, go check out Sloot's website, which is literally just slootbag.com. His weak aura page right here. And then, of course, if you need some theory and some math dropped on you, sacredduty.net is Theck's little blog right here, which he also has a crazy weak aura string page for tanks. Oh my goodness, all these things. And, of course, he always posts about just everything Protection Paladin. Theck is, I'm not going to compare him in the way, but he's sort of like the Sparkogs of Protection Paladins. This man is incredibly smart and knows what the hell he's talking about. So if you want to go read some stuff about Protection Paladins, you got sim information here on the front page, all this good stuff. Oh my goodness. Look at, this is how information, I'm like halfway down, friends. Go check out sacredduty.net. And of course, if you've missed any past episodes of Final Boss TV, you can go down to our YouTube page down below. That is our repository for all our episodes of covers like that. If you're missing part of this episode today, it'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. So, of course, we have our Paragon interview. We have our side project stuff like the War Crimes teaser and the Machinima and Nurse Barkugs right there. And all the episodes we just did. We've done Boomkin so far, Blood DK, Restoration Shaman, and Rogues for Warlords so far. All organized for your viewing pleasure. We're also, of course, on iTunes and Stitcher as an audio-only version if you want to listen to just that and not see our pretty faces. That's up to you. That's totally up to you. And now, it's time for some nitty-gritty. Let's talk about these talents real quick.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, indeed. So, your level 100 talents for protection are Empowered Seals, which are getting a buff in 6-1.
Sorry.
Seraphim, which got nerfed right now, and Holy Shield. So you've got Seal Twisting, which each seal you judge gives you a benefit, right? So we're looking at, if I'm not mistaken, the Empowered Seals buffs that are coming in 6-1 are Insight is 2% max health every 2 seconds for 20, and Righteousness is it 20% haste, not 15?
20.
It's
Yep.
20 now, yeah.
So which would be the two you'd obviously use, if not just Righteousness only? Maybe the heal sometimes, but I don't know. 2% heal as you get more HP is not terrible, but, whatever. Will that heal... Do you know if that heal will scale with Resolve?
I don't think so.
No.
It's gone on and off.
Percent health base. Yeah.
It's percent
Early
health base,
beta
yeah.
did, and it was like, obviously, you're too overpowered. But,
Too overpowered, right.
I think it's just flat percentage these
Okay.
days. I've noticed in like other blue posts for other classes, they've said the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Percentage
Like,
does not
does this
should not
scale with versatility?
Okay, yeah.
But I think
true.
right now it scales,
Okay.
even though it's percentage. But
Yeah, and again, there's of course Seraphim, which right now is on live is 750 to all stats. Okay.
Yep.
And Holy Shield remains unchanged at 15% block and allows you to block spells. And then when you block, you deal holy damage back to your attacker. So, where does the power in these lie, gentlemen? Do you think that like Holy Shield will become more powerful with your set bonuses? Do you feel like you're just gonna run Seraphim forever? Will you maybe run Empowered Seals and just use Righteousness because of LOL 20% haste? Because that, I mean, what do you think, Trekkie?
I'm gonna go with Seraphim for pretty much everything.
Okay.
I mean, like the 2Ps and 4Ps makes Holy Shield even stronger defensively. But the problem with Holy Shield is that if you're not effectively tanking, or everything that you're not effectively tanking is not taking any damage from it, so it has 0 offensive value for something you're not effectively tanking. Take an ad tank, or fight with ads, for example. If you have everything on you, you will do a shit ton of that damage. But if you have Holy Shield, you're not doing enough damage to get them on you in the first place. Other tanks will usually out-aggro you. For Seraphim, for example, you will do the damage to get everything on you, but then obviously you don't have Holy Shield. Optimally, you might want to split them, but then if you have 3 ads and 3 other ads on the other tank, then Holy Shield's not doing damage to everything, but Seraphim is.
Yeah.
But defensively, it's a very strong talent, especially with the 2Ps and 4Ps, making it even stronger. And on magic fights for sure.
Right. Okay. So what do you think of your level 100 talents? What do you think? Are you guys gonna see use of Empowered Seals in 6-1? Maybe.
If they, the problem is they took out, like, they made it mechanically easier with 2 seals now, but then they also like eliminated SO2, which is a 15% AP buff, which is like a big deal defensively too, right?
Of course.
So what they should do is like cake the AP into the SOI buff, and then we'd be talking maybe,
Then we might be swapping. But now there's no really incentive to use the SOI one.
Right, exactly. Like, there's just he's absolutely right. There just isn't. So if they play it correctly and scale it, I could see it happening. People might still not like it because you still have to use a GCD every 20 seconds or so.
Every other seal,
every other seal basically to get your to maintain your buffs. Not really, to every 10 seconds basically to maintain your buffs, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. And then the counter arguments, well, why not just take it off the GCD? And the answer to that is
too easy, but too good.
Theck makes a good point too. It just becomes a passive ability, right? You just macro it into, I don't know, Crusader Strike and Avenger Shield, and all of a sudden you have a perfect rotation at all times. So so I don't know. Holy Shield's gonna gain ground with our tier bonuses, but like even with tier 17 2-piece and 4-piece versus Seraphim and like a generic boss with maybe a dot, they're like almost equal. I just feel that Seraphim has more application, generally offensive, like Trekkie said. You can play better with it. It helps smooth damage better. You have a self-sustained 100% uptime mitigation rotation with Seraphim, whereas Holy Shield is hit or miss. Like we talked about earlier in the show, I'm not a fan of binary hit or miss. If I really need to, like, if the boss is about to kill me and my life maybe depends on if I block it or not, that's a big problem for me. Like, I'm not going to take like Holy Shield for Gruul Slash, because if it doesn't block the slash,
Yeah,
that's kind of the problem with it. But it's fun. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is also that when Seraphim is up, it's stronger than Holy Shield. But when Seraphim is not down, you're obviously weaker than with Holy Shield. So because Holy Shield is uptime. But there's a lot of like you can fill in the blank between the two Seraphims with other cooldowns if you need that defensively, and then obviously when you need it offensively, you have those like doing Seraphim. You are very strong if you have other cooldowns like Holy Avenger, for example, or Trinket Procs, and that kind of stuff.
It's just it's fun on a fight Holy Shield where you can, like Trekkie said, get mass aggro on the ads, which will be hard without Seraphim, honestly. Or there's a Brackenspore style fight where there's constantly magic damage hammering you, which there kind of really isn't this tier unless we're throwing a curveball on one of the mythic fights.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just not. It's a solid option and it's competitive anyway. If people hate Seraphim or don't play well with Seraphim or whatever, it's not like a super crappy inferior option. It's fine. It's viable. Just if you can play well with Seraphim, I believe it has a wider range of application than Shield.
So what do you normally take? Let's like walk through like a talent layout here real quick before we get into like individual bosses and stuff. Like, what do you guys usually agree upon for your 15? Your Speed of Light, Long Arm of the Law, and Pursuit of Justice. From a tanking perspective, what do you guys normally take?
Long Arm.
Long arm, says Trekkie? Yeah?
But my cookie cutter is probably long arm, unless I need to like sprint every once in a while.
If there's a fight that requires you to move like short distances every 1 minute, so Speed of Light is awesome. But
if you're doing like Mark on Margok, I'd take Speed of Light.
Right, exactly.
Why you'd be doing it as a paladin.
But normally, I guess for consistency, long arm of the law, no love for Pursuit of Justice, too inconsistent, you're always gonna meh.
Long arm, because you're stacking haste, you'll have a higher movement average uptime throughout a fight with long arm than you will with Pursuit.
Because of the
usually.
cooldown on judging.
And it's just nice to, position the boss, pick up ads, whatever, kind of just burst over there quick rather than,
Okay. Any, I guess level 30 doesn't really have a whole lot of implication. Blinding Light is your new sort of AoE little dazzly thing here, but I don't really think that's really been used very much. Probably just Fists of Justice. Not really anything to talk about there. I guess Repentance for trash. LOL.
We need to see a thing.
Yeah, that 45 is different though. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of much selfless healering with Protection Paladin. So anything to that one? I mean, I guess Eternal Flame and Sacred Shield are your two really big.
No, Eternal Flame's dead. It's like if you're not using Sacred Shield,
Eternal Flame is dead, really?
Yeah. Because they nerfed the dot component stacking with their Bastion of Glory. So
not to mention that you don't have a 4-piece on Siege Ogmar anyway, so you actually need to spend holy power on it in the first place, which just doesn't make it attractive compared to Sacred Shield, which is once every 30 seconds. Since you use it every global.
It's just flat. Yeah, it's just flat damage mitigation. Yeah.
Yep. It's a big
and an absorb.
Really big
absorb
deal.
Instead of a shield.
Yeah.
Absorb instead of a heal.
Correct. It's effective HP. You don't take damage. Not taking damage is better than healing it. So yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I guess we had a little bit of weirdness with Hand of Purity going on in Highmaul. I don't know if I can't think of much Hand of Purity gaming in Blackrock Foundry off the top of my head. Yeah. Well, I mean,
they're buffing it though, right? It's going to be 15% mitigation.
15%.
Yeah, that's sort of true. I don't know.
Which is actually kind of interesting, but still, you're losing 30-second Divine Protection.
That's true.
But you gain a CD on a 30-second timer.
Yeah.
Here's my big beef with it, though. It's on GCD.
On the global cooldown. Yep.
That kills it for me. That kills it for me. If it was off GCD, I'd
I'd probably take that one.
I probably would too.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm sure you guys probably find uses for that. That's a good point, though, because you definitely gain another cooldown. Because you can Hand of Purity yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it goes to 15% flat damage, and then, of course, the dot component is there as well. It's a 6%. It's a 6-second duration on a 30-second cooldown, so 24-second cooldown, respectively. Yeah, I guess it depends on the fight. Between Unbreakable Spirit and Hand of Purity, then. I guess right now it's probably Unbreakable Spirit all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. And Clemency is like super rare option if for some reason you need to it happens like
for double bopping. Yeah. You and your Holy Paladin take Clemency to get 4 bops out. Of course.
You have them for double sacks.
Double sacks, yeah, double bops. You're right.
Gross.
Yeah, absolutely. How about level 75? This is the tier that again, Sanctified Wrath is literally just more holy power and more damage on Holy Wrath with Sanctified Wrath.
Yeah.
But do you dabble in that, or do you take Divine Purpose still for just?
It's to me at
Fine.
least it's either DP or HA.
Yeah,
Really?
Sanctified Wrath
Wrath-
is just weird to play with.
Wrath is like the middle ground damage of the three,
Okay.
and like the worst defensively. Again,
Yeah.
we're talking like relatively not significant numbers, but if you're talking from like a cutting edge or whatever standpoint,
Sure.
like the thing with Divine Purpose that's very unattractive to a lot of people though is that it's RNG, and some people can either play very well with it or don't like to play well with it. Whereas with the other two talents, you know what you're getting, right? You pop Holy Avenger, you know your SOTR up for 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, with Holy Wrath, you will get that holy power. With Divine Purpose, you have the highest. It's actually the best defensive talent in there, assuming you have like a high tanking uptime, which most fights you do these days, right? They're trying to focus on tanks, not
Sure.
doing nothing.
Sure.
But people don't like playing with it a lot of the time because it's very proc based in RNG.
So it sounds like there's definitely a way. If you want to cruise control Prot tank, you can take Sanctified Wrath. If you can play around your procs, Divine Purpose, and then of course during a certain amount of encounters that require maybe high periods of tank damage, Holy Avenger probably sounds.
Yeah. If it periods of time usually Divine Purpose is pretty good. Like you can roll it, and if you're lucky, you have some procs. But if your damage intake is basically so high that Shield Regis isn't enough, and you might want externals as well, but you can at least maximize your Shield Regis uptime. Holy Avenger is really good for like short bursts, like
Sure.
if there's 30 seconds of the fight where he completely wrecks you.
Sure,
It's
absolutely.
really good.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
I prefer Divine Purpose personally on like fights you tank 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And now this is a weird tier for me, like looking at an outside in, because I know for I think forever, it's always been Holy Prism or Light's Hammer, and the point was Light's Hammer is like if there's AOE, and Holy Prism is like if there's not AOE, which also is counterintuitive because you can technically macro Holy Prism target yourself, so you actually do the like little splash AOE out on, is it 5? Yeah, 5 enemies. So is that still the only debate right now between Light's Hammer and Holy Prism?
The debate, it's affected by level 100 too. If you're taking Seraphim, you take Light's Hammer Execution Sentence because they're both duration spells that benefit the entirety of Seraphim. And Holy Prism CDs don't line up. Like Light's Hammer Execution Sentence will line up with every other Seraphim. Holy Prism, you're like it's mismatched with Seraphim a lot of the time, and it's also only a burst hit. So the burst hit during Seraphim is nice, but it's one hit and that's it. The others during it is great. So if you're doing Seraphim, it's just one of those other two. If you're doing Holy Shield, then it comes down to the choice of the three again. And Prism's really good. It's really versatile. I would probably take it if I was running Holy Shield ultimately. And in terms of single target damage, it's actually comparable to Execution Sentence because you cast it 3 times a minute. Execution Sentence.
But the problem is also that you have to try to figure in like a slot in your rotation to get your Holy Prism 3 times a minute instead of the other which is required once.
Right. And is that still a thing? Do you guys both have, say, a macro that you make to make Holy Prism hit yourself and then?
Yeah, I just mouse over myself.
Mouse over yourself and then do it. Otherwise, you're hitting the main boss. But if there are ads that are coming out and you take Holy Prism, you want to obviously hit yourself and then radiate to 5.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
But it's nice for dungeons, 5 mans when you're running and picking up like a bit of snap threat. But we have 5 target Avenger Shield now, so.
That is actually. I mean, this to me as a show host is like a breath of fresh air that you guys actually talk about so much about. You have talent choices because I just did Blood Death Knights and they have none. Like they change talent, which hopefully will change in 6-1.
They have a couple. Well, talent-wise, yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. Well, like you guys said, like
they have a couple glyphs.
I mean, you can go with Seraphim, and then you can take Light's Hammer for AoE-oriented fights, or Seraphim and Execution Incidents for single-target fights. You can take Holy Shield and Holy Prism if you're taking a lot of ads and stuff like that. Or you actually just have the option to take any of these 3 based on, like, the encounter or even, like, a playstyle feel. Maybe you just love Light's Hammer because it looks freaking awesome. You know? Like, that sounds good to me, though. That means there is some varying choice there. Because if you're a tank class that has 1 talent in every tier to take because the other ones are garbage, then you're playing, vanilla WoW again, where a cookie cutter spec is, 31-4, whatever it was. I don't know, whatever it was back in the day.
Okay.
So, but that does sound like there's quite a bit, and that's cool that you brought up that based on your level 100 talents, that almost kind of can change all your other ones.
Yeah, No, there's stuff. Paladins have always kind of been not always, but like since the whole talent system revamp and glyphs and stuff like that. I guess MOP really. They've always kind of been the best, like the tank with the best kind of options in terms of specking into single target, specking into AoE, specking into cleave, specking into like you can spec for the situation, which is really cool. I think so. A lot of the other tanks are fairly limited like that.
Yeah. So then I guess we'll go through a couple of thoughts toward individual bosses now and what you guys take. So how about a fight like, let's say like Operator Thogar, Beastlord Darmak, Blast Furnace, very AoE oriented encounters. Well, I guess Blast Furnace is hit or miss AoE. Like Treckie, what would you take for like an AoE encounter?
You mean glyphs?
Yeah. Oh well, talents, glyphs. Yeah. Just lay me out.
Talents. Most cases I would take Seraphim and Lightshammer. Depends a little bit on like Lightshammer is like most times ads are gonna live for 14 seconds. Lightshammer is gonna do like completely wreck everything.
Yeah.
Especially with Seraphim when you have that up.
Mm-hmm.
So for an AoE encounter, I take those. You could play around with Holy Shield a little bit. I did on when we killed Blast Furnace this week. It was very, very effective in phase 1 where you're tanking so much, but then was just completely useless in the other phases.
Yeah, right.
Offensively and then defensively, like it's random. You have to have another cooldown to cover up for it anyway, and Seraphim does kind of work as a cooldown in itself. Yeah, no, those two in particular, and then in terms of glyphs, just don't have focus shield glyph, and then consecrate is nice when you're AoE.
Really, you like the? Now you were talking about not the consecrate glyph. You're talking about
consecrate Tor.
Consecrate.
Yeah,
Tor,
consecrate. The one that follows you, basically.
Right.
Yes. The
big deal.
The holy poop fart cloud. Yes.
Yeah, fart cloud. Yeah.
Yes, fart cloud. Absolutely.
One of those right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, no, it is neat that you can. It's kind of cool that you have the option to throw your consecrate or have it drop at you or continuously pulse as you move. So yeah.
Oh man, I would never take the consecrate glyph.
Not the throw consecrate.
Having to throw it out every 6 seconds.
No.
Dude, I hate it. It destroys my rotation so much trying to pull out like Light's Hammer already.
Right.
Like, it throws me off so much trying to pull that one out. Like having to do that with consecrate every 8 seconds. Or
I heard
whatever.
You complaining the other day. Yeah.
It is so annoying. It's frustrating.
So then what about?
I would also be not dismiss Holy Avenger for AoE fights either because it makes your Avenger shield hits 3 targets and it gets super powered.
5
basically. Yeah, he hits 5 targets. Sorry.
5 targets. Yeah. So that's true.
And it gives you
30% extra damage and stuff. Yeah. And it'll give you 3 holy power. So okay, fair enough. So then, Sloot, what about a more single target oriented fight? We're talking like Gruul, or Gorger, Flamebender. What would you run for like talents or anything? Any glyphs that you would suggest?
Okay, so I mean, obviously I'd assess if there's physical damage. If there is, Divine Protection glyph, like hands down. You're basically gonna use that glyph like every fight this tier. Almost.
Right, I had that already on here, pretty much. Yeah.
Focus shield. We'll talk glyphs. Focus shield. Yeah. Divine Protection, and then Alabaster is done in 6.1, and after the nerf, it's actually inferior to Final Wrath slightly on your typical fight. Yeah. So Final Wrath after that, unless I need some kind of utility. But let's say there's no utility in the fight. And then outside of that, for talents, I'd take ES, Seraphim, and probably Holy Avenger. A Holy Avenger or Divine Purpose, it just depends on what kind of tanking uptime there is. If it's like Gruul, like you're saying, where you tank 50% of the time, the other tank taunts, definitely Holy Avenger, because you can guarantee that. You can guarantee the guaranteed SOTR uptime through Holy Avenger basically almost every time you tank, or every other time you tank at least.
And you said ES. I'm not mistaken. You saying you would take Empowered
Execution
Seals?
Sentence.
Execution Sentence. Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
What would you take for? You just Seraphim it still, right? Yeah.
Lord help us now. Yeah.
Right.
Prism's not a bad option either, but again, like I said with Seraphim, like Execution Sentence damage is just amplified so high during the Seraphim cast because they're both duration, hot, whatever spells.
Okay.
Whereas Holy Prism's just a
and Unbreakable Spirit too, I'd imagine, just because of
Unbreakable Spirit, just because of the CD. Again, as
that tier is so dependent. Like if you use Hand of Purity or Clemency, it's so depending on the fight. So.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if you're that fight too, you get a lot of benefit from glyphing Divine Protection because the slash is both magic and physical. So, yeah.
Yeah, because you can use it. Well, no, the slash is only physical for you, I think. Well, I guess
for the tank, you take the dot.
But you need to have the glyph for the physical part because that's what's gonna kill you as a tank.
True. For Gruul.
Yeah. You take the slash. You take the debuff as well.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Fair enough then. That makes sense to me. Are there any sort of weird outlier fights that you would take like a totally different build coming up here soon? Like I'm trying to think.
BRF?
Yeah, in BRF. Because like even talking about like Blackhand, it's so different to compare that from Blackhand to Margok because Margok had all these phases and adds, all sorts of craziness and intermissions, all that sort of crap. Like, but Blackhand is very much like it's just Blackhand himself.
Yeah. Blackhand as a tank is a single target fight.
Yeah.
Pretty much, unless they introduce something in the Mythic only encounter.
Yeah.
But the only thing I'd be like Quirky or whatever would be Holy Shield on maybe Furnace. It's like my only real thought right now. I think. It's an option. I like. If it's gonna depend. Is phase 1 gonna be the hard part? Phase 2 or phase 3 gonna be the hard part? You're gonna be gearing or glyphing for the hard part.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I wonder though, because of the Hand of Purity buff coming, if that does become an interesting iteration.
The GCD is so bad.
The GCD.
It's gonna be. It's gonna.
horrible.
See, when you're tanking if you're tanking something for the whole time, you're gonna get more benefit out of getting 2 holy divine protections per minute than try and get 1 1 divine protection and then 2 the Hand of Purity on the global cooldown as well.
Yeah, if it was on GCD, I would definitely consider it.
Yeah, but if you're trying to stack it for 1 big hit, I don't know, maybe Orgorger, I don't even know, like maybe it. But then again, that's a bad example because you're gonna want your divine protection to be ready again for the next hit.
Does Hand of Purity work on Orgorger's breath though? Does that count as a dot?
No. I'm just talking about the passive like 15%.
The DR.
Sure. I'm saying
that's why you're gonna go for it in 6.
Yeah, because you could divine protection and Hand of Purity yourself, and the damage that the tank takes was radiates behind him to the raid. So.
But it's like it's made so like void by so many other externals from the raid, which are so strong right now.
Right. But it is an option. It still brings up this crazy thing that the Paladins as a class still have arguably some of the most stuff going on right now in raids. They have so many things they can do between Holy and even Ret Paladins. They still have all the hands, right? And they can glyph to other hands and stuff like that too. And then of course Prot. That's wild. I mean, I have Healing Stream Totem or Ancestral Guidance, which is like getting a little bit of a buff, and I can make your socks wet, sort of. You know, that's all I bring. Well, and of course Fire Nova Overlord we trust. But
yes.
Of course. Yeah, so that's about time, gentlemen. Do you have any Protection Paladin closing soapbox, little anecdotal tips and tricks for the community you want to leave with? I'll go with you first, Ted. Anything you want to?
Don't suck. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I don't know.
You heard it here first, because on Final Boss TV. Don't suck. Anyway.
I think if you feel that Paladins are just a spam SOTR thing because you're new to the class and that's all there is to it, take a second, maybe look at Icy Veins, talk to some of the top end players, and then you can really assess deeper into the class and see why they're one of the harder tanks to play at like a top low. And they're a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Give them a try. They're a lot of fun. They're versatile. They can heal. They can DPS. And I mean, as a tank, as a tank role, you can off heal, you can DPS, you can help the raid a lot. So that's for me at least what makes them so attractive, that they can kind of do everything. Just like you mentioned, Adam, all the hand spells and all that kind of stuff. You know,
they have so much stuff. I mean, everything they have is either for not only for themselves, right? I don't think other tanks have as. I mean, they kind of nerfed warriors. They lost a lot of their, like they lost. I mean, they have like Rally and Banner, but the other banners are gone. So like they don't have as much. You have Lay on Hands, all the different hand buffs in themselves. So yeah, I mean even other abilities you use, because like Light's Hammer is a damage and a heal. Holy Prism's damage and a heal. Like all these little things that add up for this class.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah, it does absolutely. How about you, Trekkie? Soapbox time. What you got?
No, I think I'm about to say I really do enjoy Paladins because they are so micromanagement compared to the other tanks. And like Sloot was saying, like you get a lot of people who say like Paladins is the easy class because they're just thinking about the DPS rotation and their mitigation is in their DPS rotation. And you even see these Paladins who like macro Shield of Rages to all their abilities and like, oh, Paladins is so easy. And then you're like, oh, you look at the Warriors, they have active mitigation that they have to choose when they do it. And it's like, well, you should be doing that with Warrior Paladins as well, but it's like, I don't know. My best tip would be don't die.
Right. And as a Protection Paladin, you have so many things to help save your ass, too. So, I mean, you do have 3 cooldowns, 4 if you want to include, lay on hands in it initially. You also have...
You have good emergency tools for sure.
Yeah.
Emergency
Word
tools,
of Glory
absolutely.
is Word of Glory is
Word
lay
of
on
Glory
hands.
still...
Basically a
yeah.
LOH with a resolve and
And,
With
yeah.
resolve and
stacks.
your stacks.
And your healing
exactly.
tonic.
And the healing tonic. You're goof.
It's just also lay on hands.
You're so stupid. All right, it's button time. You big nerds. All right, it's button time. All right, anyway. Thank you all for watching and being here for episode number 70 of Final Boss TV. Your WoW Endgame rating show. Of course, my name was Adam K, aka Bay, and everything you need to find out about Final Boss TV is on FinalBoss.tv. If you're on the Twitch page right now, all the buttons down below, they work. You can click on them and they do things. So around the table again real quick for my awesome guests, we had Trekkie. You can go watch him do the things on the World of Warcraft at twitch.tv/Trekkie.
Yep. Trekkie WoW on Twitter.
How much longer are you cat sitting, sir? When are you gonna get your fridge back?
in a week, next Monday.
Gosh.
So I'm gonna do progress from here.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's crazy, sir. But thank you for being on the show again. Always a pleasure.
It's always a lot of fun.
And of course, we had Slootbag in the Midwinters over there. You can go, wrong button. You can follow him on twitch.tv at Slootbag.
Thank you.
His
And,
beautiful
Twitter
bald-
is sleeping.
Yes, of course.
Smooth.
I know, right? Did you just shave? It looks pretty nice. Looks good.
I did. I just had a fresh shave.
Perfect. Very, very nice, sir. Always a pleasure to have you on the show again. Even though it's been like a year, we gotta make that a little shorter
thank you,
than
man.
last time.
Excited.
My goodness.
Thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
If you guys have questions for our guests, stick around for the after show Q&A. We'll be sitting around with you guys after a short break for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. If you have some questions, we can squelch in the chat room, so don't go anywhere. Next week, on the 15th of February, it'll be a no-show day. There might be some YouTube content coming out. Hopefully I can get the live raid wrapped up and put out on there. So, stay tuned for that, the live raid from BlizzCon 2014. I have some real-life things to take care of, and because some of the guests that I'm looking at getting are going to be raiding, so I can't get them on there. So that episode is pushed back now to February the 22nd, if I'm not... Yep. February 22nd will be a healer episode. We'll do a Mistweaver Monks. More details on the guests coming on that show on social media, Facebook and Twitter, as that gets closer. If you have questions for Mistweaver Monks, submit them now, because you know it's coming up next. So I'll see you all in the YouTube comments. Thank you all so much for watching Everyone Behind the Scenes. Love you guys. Trust in the seal of tempered fate. Have fun at work. Have fun raiding Blackrock Foundry. And until next week, guys. Bye-bye! Wave at the camera! What is that?
Did you just have a seizure or something?
No, I'm saying bye! I'm doing my hand wave at the camera thing! You always, yeah, you suck!